Welcome back, everybody, to the ROI Online Podcast. And today I'm proud to introduce you to Alex Schauer, as in taking a shower.
That's right.
Alex is a StoryBrand Guide, and her company is Schauer Branding Co. And I've seen I've seen Alex contribute to the StoryBrand Guide community on Slack, and I watch her stuff. And so this is someone I think that everyone that's listening should get to meet. Alex, welcome to the ROI Online Podcast.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, Steve. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. One of the things that I was attracted to about what you're doing, I think that you have experienced or recognize that there's a big segment of the folks that we serve who are family-based businesses.
That's right.
And so I was reading some of your messaging. Kind of give us the backstory and walk us into how you got to where you are.
Sure.
But let's talk about that family business flavor there.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in manufacturing, family business manufacturing. I married into a family business 9 years ago. And so right out of the gate, I learned that when you're a family member, you have a job to do at the family business. So, which was a really great thing for me. So they allowed me to come in and be a part of the family business. And so there was a gap at that time in the marketing department. And so Alex was there to fill that role. Although my education was in business management. So I had never taken a marketing class before, but here I am in the marketing department for the business.
That's so
And
typical.
so, right. And so
People get pushed into the marketing role, because they're just going to do whatever they need to do to bring it. But it's
yeah,
so typical to hear that they're not
yeah,
prepared, but yet someone's
yeah,
got to run with the ball there.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. So it became, I just kind of come out of college where I was in learning mode, but then I went right back into learning mode again and started reading and doing everything that I could to figure out what we needed to do, what I needed to do to contribute to the family business. And um, I kind of joke sometimes that my husband and I, that first year, we were learning how to be business partners and married at the same time. So that was a little bit unique for sure.
Hmm.
But everything about family business, I've loved it from day one. And we kind of relish it. And so, let's see, it's been 5 years ago now that I came across StoryBrand as what in my research as I was trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. And there was something about it that clicked on all cylinders for me. I loved being able to change our narrative to be more about the customer and less about who we were. And so we began that process of implementing the framework into our business. And upon launching a new website, we grew 417% in online revenue
Wow.
using the StoryBrand framework. So it was a massive win across the board for the business. But I don't think I realized at the time how much it was going to help us in other ways as well. It didn't just change our communication as it pertained to our business, to our customers, but it changed our communication internally and united us as a family. So it's been a huge part of our journey. And it took us 4 months. Steve, you know how long it takes to write a brand script. It took us 4 months to write a brand script for the business. And so it was a struggle every day to write it because we were so close to our message. But in the end, it all paid off. But I saw other businesses struggle in the same area as we did. And I thought, I would love to be able to help them through this process as well. And that's when I became a StoryBrand Guide.
Wow. So let's talk about, first of all, you're the new kid on the block.
Yes.
You're the daughter-in-law coming into the family business.
Yes.
Here's this responsibility. You go and do this assignment, but you come back with this initiative that's going to inject some change in the
Yeah.
family business. Let's talk about
Yeah.
how that was received, what challenges you had
Yeah.
there that are
Yeah.
normal. Take the names off
Right.
of it, but
Right.
but let's talk about how you implemented that and how you worked around that.
Yeah. Well, my husband was on board from day one with the story brand framework. He was actually the one that sent it over to me and said, "I think this is the direction we should go." And honestly, I come from a very gracious family of that sounds like a great idea. I think the biggest challenge for us was, um, we used to tell this story, and if you would have asked me, if you came up to me at a party or something, if you would have asked me what we did, I would have told you, well, my father-in-law,
Hmm.
and then I would walk through his story of inventing a safety product for schools. And I got a lot of really, that's really cool, but I never made any connection as to those people need our product in their schools, those kinds of conversations. So the biggest change is that we stopped telling that story. We stopped telling the story about my father-in-law. And it's actually really interesting how we started our company. And so I always thought, well, if it's interesting, people want to hear it.
Hmm.
But the truth of the matter is they really wanted a safety product for their schools that made it safer
Hmm.
for kids where they play. And so that's the story that we started to tell instead. The other biggest challenge that we faced implementing with Story Brand Framework is that we really pared down what we were talking about. So we had several products, and we decided let's focus our homepage and really some of the premier internal pages that we used and only talk about our one big product, and everything else will just go to the footer of the page. And that was a little bit scary because you don't want to lose any revenue, but it didn't, it did the very opposite when we focused on the one product that we really was proprietary to us and that people were really choosing, then sales began to increase. So it was pretty amazing.
Marketing directors are relating with you right now. Then maybe
Yeah.
they don't work for a family business, but they get handed an assignment. They
Yeah.
they maybe learn about StoryBrand, or someone was delegated StoryBrand, but then they want to implement it and change how the
Yes.
organization talks about what
Hmm.
they do. So just for their edification, how do you talk about the business now?
How do I talk about the business
Yeah,
now?
how do you talk
So
about your business now? Let's hear what the new message sounds like.
yeah, so the new message is, do you know those protruding coat hooks that stick out at eye level whenever you go through schools?
Yeah.
Those are really dangerous for kids when they're hung at eye level. So we have a flat profile coat hook that makes schools safer. That's
Cool.
our one liner. That's what we say. That's our messaging now. And it resonates within everything that we do. So we went to a trade show, and the sign behind us said, "Our hooks won't hurt you." And you'd be amazed how many people were coming up to us and they would say, "Do coat hooks hurt you?" And I was like, "Yes, they do." And so it opened a huge story loop in people's minds. And we had, really great conversations because we used we went toward their problem, the problem the customers are facing, instead of saying, my father-in-law started this company, it's really cool. you know, that
Yeah.
doesn't solve the problem for our customers.
That drew a picture in my mind of a coat hook that retracts. And
Yeah.
and so I can see where that would be safe. You pull it
Mhm.
out, hang your coat, but when you pull it off, it disappears.
Yeah. And ours is actually a flat profile. And so it kind of sticks up and down, and, they're virtually unbreakable. So
Mhm.
what a district orders from us, then they're able to have a coat hook that's going to last forever. So the life of their students and beyond. So it's a pretty neat product for sure.
It's really cool how a sentence can convey a whole bunch of things and just
Yeah.
quickly connect the dots.
Mhm.
So let's talk some more about family business. So family businesses, I didn't realize you and I were talking before.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how many small businesses are actually family-owned businesses.
Yeah, 90%. 90% of businesses are family owned.
That's crazy. And you think about just the challenges of running a business, and then you add on that layer of family dynamics.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know what? I had a great education, um, and all business related, and not one of my books spoke to what happens when the management is your family member. They just talked about really great philosophies and principles that you could implement. Some of my favorite books are still books that I refer back to, but they're missing that element of, well, what happens when that person is your father-in-law or your mother-in-law or your brother-in-law, which is our story. There are 6 of us all together working in the family business. And so I don't always felt like there was this missing factor. Yes, I can run an effective meeting, but how do I make sure that that meeting doesn't happen over Easter? When I'm sitting at the table with my family over Easter, and
Mm.
those type of ideas. How do I approach something in a way that's really clear and kind at the same time? And I've heard, you probably have heard the saying, "To be clear is to be kind," and I completely agree with that, especially in family business. There's a different level of communication that you have to have when you're working with family.
Totally. So one of my clients, he specializes in family business coaching,
Yeah.
in particular, the time when the leadership of that family business is beginning to transition, where the
Yes.
parents or the
Hmm.
elder
Hmm.
folks are wanting to retire,
Right.
but you now have the kids or the siblings that are going to take over,
Right.
and so there's a big challenge of transition of management, of leadership. I can't imagine how difficult that can be.
Hmm.
What's in place, and how can your messaging, how can the way that you approach, and that's a marketing challenge as well.
Hmm.
How do you approach that with your messaging?
That's a really good question. And for us, the decision that we've made is that we're here to serve our customers, and that is multi-generational.
Hmm.
That'll happen this generation. So we're second generation. My kids are third, and my nieces and nephews will be third generation. And what I found is, as we've stopped talking about who's in charge, and we've focused on who our customers are and how we're best going to serve them, a lot of those questions start slipping to the background. Who's going to be in charge? What is the percentage? All those conversations happen with lawyers, and it's an important conversation to have, absolutely. But the day to day, when we're serving our customers well together, the questions of percentages kind of fade to the background. We're all going
Wow,
to serve them really well.
that's a powerful statement that you just said. That so much aligning, so many agendas
Hmm.
on the right point on the horizon. On the horizon, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Even, and you probably know this quote from Donald Miller, and it was the one that really kind of spoke to me the first time I ever read Building a Story Brand, was the minute that you stop losing sleep over your success and you start losing sleep over your customer success is the day you start to grow again.
Hmm.
And that's the epitome of everything that we're doing.
Wow. So you have success there. You earn your chops. You earn the respect of your new family,
Yes.
right? You show
Yes.
success, and then you decide, hey, I think I want to do this for some other folks.
Yes. I
Yeah.
did. And originally it was going to be kind of something fun that I did on the side because I enjoyed that process so much. And I became a guide in September 2017. So, it was about that time that, I thought this will be something that I can do, like I said, on the side. And it didn't take long before I realized that it was something I loved so much. And in about two months, I think it was November of that same year that I went full time. And so the family business is now a client of mine, but I do take on other clients now. So, so far over the last 2.5 years, I've worked with over 100 companies to help them with this process. And it's been phenomenal. And I love being able to come alongside them and to make sure that their messaging is really clear, because I know, I mean, once you've been through this process, and Steve, you know exactly what it's like, once you've been through the process of getting clear on the message and making sure that, it's through all of your marketing efforts, it does something for the momentum of the business and for the people that are involved in it. So it's a fun thing to do every day.
I think the momentum comes from when you align all the energies and
Yeah.
people's brains
Yes.
on that team to start communicating the same message. And that bleeds into how they treat customers, that bleeds
Yes.
into the decisions they make about everything.
I
Have you found
completely agree.
so? When I learned about StoryBrand, obviously the first default way of applying it is on your marketing message, but
Yeah.
quickly it became obvious to me that this was applicable in communicating with your team and
Yes.
communicating with, yeah, as in all these other scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
What have you experienced?
I completely agree. Like I said, originally the idea of implementing StoryBrand was just going to be on our website.
Hmm.
But after seeing success from that, we started implementing it in every other area of the business. And even at times, and my brother-in-law and I were just talking the other day, there was a guy on the team who was kind of struggling with some things. And so I said, well, does he, have you reiterated to him the purpose of being here? And I think that that's kind of our default. We're here to serve our customers so that they have safer schools. Has that been reiterated to him? And he said, you know what, that's the missing link. And so he was able to go back to that team member and say, hey, let's focus in. The reason that we're here every day is to be able to serve our customers so that they have safer schools. And what you're doing is important. And I think that being able to offer that to people is just a great way to serve your team members, to say there's so much clarity about what we do, why we're here. Then some of those big questions start fading into the background. Like I said, just the same way with a succession plan. Everything fades away when you start focusing on your customers.
Mm. I've led many change initiatives with my company,
Mm-hmm.
and naturally, change is intimidating, and you encounter resistance because the team's just wanting to understand why. Why do I need to do
Right,
this extra hurdle? But when
right.
when I introduced StoryBrand, the adoption rate on this was, yeah, impressive, way better than all the other initiatives I'd done.
Sure.
And it started us down a path of alignment, I believe was the big takeaway on that.
Yeah.
But what other, so StoryBrand is like the entry into another expectation or realization
Mm-hmm.
of how to communicate. What are some other frameworks that you've found? What are some other books?
Yeah.
I'm curious at what other things that you've
Sure.
applied that becomes a force multiplier on top of that
Yeah.
framework.
One of the things that we did and we implemented was testing for the Enneagram. So we do know what Enneagram numbers our team members are, which is incredibly helpful. It really defined a lot for us, even within our family members. My brother-in-law and I are both ones on the Enneagram. So I think that explained a lot to our family. If you know, a one is a perfectionist. So
Let's,
we like to say we're reformers.
yeah,
So,
let's stop and
yeah,
for the audience that may not be familiar with
sure.
that, would
Yeah.
you kind of give us a backstory there?
Right. So the Enneagram, and I am not a professional at the Enneagram, but
Mhm.
Ian Cron is the one that we've, adopted what he has to say about the Enneagram and done his testing and those kinds of things. But it basically is a 9 personality types that are that you fit into. So you have one specific personality type that is you, and then you have moments of stress and moments of growth and where you go in those areas as well. So it's very interesting. I think one of the, I've taken different personality tests throughout the years, and they've all been very good. But the thing about the Enneagram that I like the most is that I feel like it gave us a path of communication to those different um, personality types within our company. And so if we start seeing something that we're like, oh, that seems a little off, then we know maybe we haven't given them enough work at this point because they're an achiever and they don't have enough right now, or whatever it may be. So does that explain the
Yeah,
Enneagram?
so it's basically a framework to our we tend to think everybody should approach everything like we do.
Yes, exactly.
And when we're not thinking about it, we're going, what's wrong with that person? Can't
Yes.
they see what I see? But the problem is they're different.
Right,
And so that's an
right.
acknowledgement of all the differences in us and how we can at least create a standard to communicate and know that, oh, they're not crazy and they're not weird.
Yeah.
They're just like they're supposed to be.
Exactly. And how do we use that as a strength? How do we help them use that as a strength and not kind of get in their head? Like Kyle and I, my brother-in-law and I, as both as both ones on the Enneagram,
Hmm.
we have an inner critic. Well, I thought everyone had an inner critic, so I
Hmm.
was very confused why anyone could make massive mistakes that would send them to jail. But figured out really quickly that not everyone has that. So if anything, Kyle and I are not never going to jail. So, um, but yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So it does change the way that we communicate. And even Kyle and I coach each other sometimes, and we'll say, I think that's your inner critic. I don't think that that's actually what's happening here. So it's been helpful to have kind of an ally in that way, but also understand how the rest of our family members work as well.
So tell us about some of the clients that you work with. Do you specialize in a certain industry or Enneagram type, or
Yeah.
how? Tell us about that.
Or Enneagram type. I haven't started testing for Enneagrams first, but that's actually is an interesting concept. I work with a wide range of clients. So really my sweet spot, I would say, are service-based businesses or product-based businesses. So ones that are like ours that have manufacturing as part of it. I know that world, so it seems to come pretty easy for me. But I love it whenever I get to work with a family business that is, because I understand the way, whenever they say I have to run this by my cousin, it's not an odd thing for me to hear. And I completely understand that. And I know how many family members do we need to have in this discussion to really move it forward in those kinds of questions. So I love working with family businesses.
Found that when they have to go run it by their cousin or someone else,
Yes.
what that means is I have a communication challenge and
Uh-huh.
I need to go do a presentation, a sales presentation basically. So that's a
Yes.
great time to help them get their messaging correct before they go into
Exactly.
that and set them up for success.
Exactly. You're right on. That's right. That's right.
I found that also, you know, it's our natural thinking that everyone has a marketing challenge, and they do, but
Mhm.
we default to thinking it's an outside. I need new customers.
Yes.
They do, but there's other marketing challenges, such as maybe they need to recruit employees, good
Hmm.
employees.
Yes.
Have you talked about a project? Maybe you're shaking your head, so I'm assuming you have done something like this. Tell us
Hmm.
about how you approached that project and what the outcome
Yeah.
looked like.
Yeah. Well, I think anytime you add a new team member to I mean, it's kind of, especially in family business, I would say it's a very personal thing when you're adding someone to essentially the family, and they have to be the right person. So one of the ways that as we, and this really goes back to, and I know I probably sound like a broken record, but as we continued to focus on our customer, it became even clearer who we needed to have that could focus on our customers with us. So we tend to go, for our business, we like to go for people who are who have a growth mindset, who are really detail oriented, because we're in manufacturing, so there's a lot of details that happen. But we write a brand script for the person that we're wanting to hire. So the problem they want to solve is they want to be a part of a great company where they can continue to grow, without having to leave, kind of idea. And so it's been helpful for us as we're having those conversations to think, we want to build people into our business for the long term. We find it incredibly important to serve them. And so it just, as well as our customers. And when you serve your team members well, they turn around and serve your customers well. So that's our first brand script, is for our team members, but it all goes back to, are they going to serve our customers well?
Yeah, that process of bringing someone into the organization. Imagine if you put yourself in their shoes, are like, okay, I need to learn the lingo. I need to learn the culture. I need to learn
Right.
who's safe and who do I steer away from, right? That's going through
Yeah,
their head.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
if you have a process that you're working on a brand script with them,
Yeah.
you're actually giving them tools
Yes.
to be successful, to go through that
Right.
hazing
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
It's we call it, I'm being facetious, but it
Right.
feels
I
like
know.
hazing, right?
Right. It does. It can feel that way. And I think that that's why it's so important to give everyone the same language, because it becomes something that you say every day. I find that, I've been in organizations before where you walk in, they hand you an employee handbook and you're just going to figure it out. And I don't think that that works long term. I think that you have to continually have that conversation of, what does it look like to serve our customers extremely well? And what do we need to do to make sure that you're equipped for the job that you have to do, to make sure that we're getting all the details taken care of, those kinds of things. So I don't think that it's, although we can brand script the employee onboarding process, the internal conversation has to be consistent and fluid, and it's not just a one-time conversation of, let's onboard them well. It's, let's onboard them well and let's keep them going for a year, 2, 3, 4 until they've been with us forever.
Have you experienced with a customer that maybe read StoryBrand and, okay, this is something we need to do, is what they're
Yeah.
thinking, but they talk to you and they think that, here, I'm going to pay you a little bit of money, hurry and get my brand script done, and then check, I got that off the list, and let's get on to something else. I,
Uh-huh.
I find that it's not that easy, number one, but there's a lot more work you have to do. But that person, that's not a perfect client that you want to bring on board unless you can get them to recognize, oh, this is way deeper than what I originally thought.
It is. It is. And I think a lot of that is guiding them through the process, because I mean, even when I first went through the story brand framework, I thought this will be great for our website. And then as I started the process, it began to be very clear that it was way beyond what the homepage of our website could do.
Mhm.
It was internal communication. It was every email, every piece of mail that went out to our customers. It was everything. It was the way that we talked, just as a family, but also with our team. Just with unity across the board. And so I think that was the biggest, and that's what I try to help my clients do, is work through the process so that they understand that, yes, it's going to be the website, but then we're going to move it into the other areas of our business to be successful.
So what are some of the things, we're in this shelter in place time. And I think people are really reevaluating what they're doing. They are going through a reset conversation in their mind about personal stuff, about their business, etc. What are some ideas that you have that they might consider?
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I don't know if you can edit this part or not, but I had a glitch happen with my sound, so I just missed your question.
Okay.
Do you mind repeating it?
Your sound greatly improved, right? I mean, right in that last part there. I don't know what
Mhm.
happened, but all
Okay.
the things aligned.
Okay.
I don't know what that was.
Well, let's if you don't mind editing this part out
Totally.
and question, then I will continue from here.
Okay. So my question is now we're in this time where we're sheltering in place, and a lot of people are doing personal inventory, first of all, on a reset. Businesses are thinking that as well.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your suggestions or ideas?
To resetting your business during
Yeah,
Corona.
or what things, what inventory items should we be working on right now?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think it's obviously different for every business. And I think it was maybe John Maxwell. I don't want to quote him incorrectly, but he said, "Cloaked in every opportunity is a great challenge." So you have this great challenge ahead of us, and I'm not going to pretend like it's super easy for everyone at all. But I think that some businesses, their call to arms during this time is going to be stay the course. It's not going to be let's innovate, let's create something new. For a lot of people, it's going to be stay the course, and I think that that's okay. And I mean, that's what we've decided from the very beginning. We thought, do we need to iterate our business? Do we need to make any changes or innovate? And really, the thing that we all came back to is we're going to stay the course, and we're going to get through this time, and it's paid off for us really well. So I do think that that is going to be the narrative of many businesses, is we stayed the course, and doing that paid off in great dividends. However, I also know that for many businesses, what this time allows them to do is to give greater focus to the things that they've had on the back burner, things that they've had in their mind as we could do this in the future or something along those lines. And this is really the time to focus on those items. And so they know what it is, that burning problem in the back of their mind that they've been thinking this whole time. As soon as we get a break, that's what I'm going to focus on. Well, this is your break. This is your chance. And lean into it and allow this challenge to bring out the best opportunities and the innovation. But like I said, I think that there are two different, and I don't know if that's a narrative that we're hearing a lot, that for some businesses, the decision is to stay the course. But that's okay too. It's okay to stay the course. If it's not, if you don't have burning things in the back of your mind that you're like, oh, I should create this, then this is your time to just stay the course.
Agreed. Just because other people haven't changed doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah, exactly.
We started, I was thinking about what we should do or pivot or whatever. And so I think what we're going to do is we'll start producing digital face masks for websites with bad breath.
Nice. I like it. I did have a Zoom call last week where someone wore a face mask. I'm pretty sure it was a joke. Or the coronavirus can now go through computer screens. I'm not sure, but that's pretty funny. That's good, Steve.
So how do you use, so what are some other books that you have got a lot of, I don't know, epiphanies, or what's some other books that you've read that's really helped you? And then some marketing directors or folks that are relating with you or in a similar position, what's some books that they should consider?
The first book that I want them to pick up is Never Split the Difference.
Chris Voss.
Chris Voss. Oh, I've read that one twice. I'm about to pick it up again for the third time.
Yeah, me too.
Such a good book, right?
It is. I have it on Audible and I listen to it all the time.
Yes.
right?
It's so good. Yeah. No, I think that that's the first one I would say to pick up and read it and understand it the best you can. And I use it almost as a just a resource to go back to time and time again whenever I'm coming up against a negotiation. By nature, that's not my my bent. I'm not a negotiator. So he's helped me tremendously. So I'm trying to think what other. I have a stack of books on my desk right now.
He's helped you tremendously.
He's a great writer, and it's just helped. Yeah, it's helped tremendously. The other books that I recommend are Mike Michalowicz. His book Clockwork is excellent. I love that book. I started using. He has a 4D mix for his business, and it's doing designing, delegating, and deciding. So designing. There are 4. And what I've taken from his book is I actually take my time and I divide it up into those 4 different categories to make sure that I have the right mix going on at all times. And it's been really instrumental for me. So I highly recommend that book as well. And, my kind of one that I have gone back to every year is Good to Great. I just love that book. It may be my Enneagram 1 that loves that first line of the book, good is the enemy of great. Mm-hmm. But it's a fantastic book. I love to go back to that one year after year. And especially the part, and I actually went back to it at the beginning of quarantine, where he talks about facing the brutal facts. And I reread that section just to prepare my mind for whatever we might be facing, because it is so unknown still, but it was very unknown in the beginning. But I wanted to be prepared to face whatever we were tackling. So Jim Collins' Good to Great, Facing the Brutal Facts, that's my favorite chapter right now. Ask me next week and it'll be a different one. But yeah, those are probably the ones, other than obviously the StoryBrand books, that I'm always referring back to, but that are helpful.
So what are some conferences that you've attended that you really enjoyed or really like?
That's a really good question. I have attended Dave Ramsey events, EntreLeadership events, and they've been really helpful. And actually, any women that are maybe listening attended Christy Wright's Business Boutique, and it was pretty instrumental in my business early on, and I really appreciated all of her information as well. And then, everyone should obviously go to the live StoryBrand workshop.
Exactly.
I could go back to that every time they have it and be perfectly happy. So much to learn always.
So when you take on a new client,
Yes.
what are the first 30 days look like with you?
The first 30 days are really focused on messaging and making sure that we have that really clear. And so, it typically starts out with an initial conversation where we're walking through what the messaging should be and really what their business is all about, those kinds of things. Sometimes that includes conversations with past clients. Sometimes it includes conversations with other team members, but we just want to be sure that we're covering all the bases. So the first 30 days is really focused on making sure the messaging is right and we have a strategy moving forward. We have great words, but we've got to put them in place somewhere, and that's going to happen on the, through the strategy. So what are the next steps? What's the most important thing? Where are people finding you the most? And I found that that's different across the board. I have some clients that will come to me and say, I have a trade show next month. And so instead of trying to fix everything at one time, let's just make sure that you knock it out of the park at this trade show. So that's our focus first. So initially it's the messaging, and then from there we're talking strategy on where we're going to use those words the most effectively.
I find that when you tell them we're going to take some time to really nail this messaging, they're like, "What? We can't do this in just an hour, a couple of hours?" What do you say to that?
It took me 4 months to write my first brand script. 4. And I'm not saying like I was doing it on the side of my regular work. I was focused on it, and I was reiterating it over and over, and I was starting from scratch and trying again. And there was just a lot of trial and error in the process. A lot of that had to do with the fact that I was so close to the content, the business itself, that that I just couldn't see the label on the outside of the bottle. And so it just took that long to get that clear. So we're really saving them about 3 months of agony. If you work with a guide, I will save you time, I promise, but it still will take time to get it right.
Yeah, you're illustrating awesome. The reason why hiring a guide is so valuable, because you don't realize how close you are to your content, and how, even for us, it took a long time to really get it. And one day that just hit me, but it
Yes.
was like I had been walking around this obstacle in my way all this time. And then one day I'm going, I can't believe I didn't see that, but we are too close to our stuff.
Exactly. That outside perspective is huge. Just to be able to have someone else. And, I'll have clients tell me all the time, I can't believe you just said what we've been trying to say for 10 years. And it's just an outside perspective with the framework. That's really what it is. And so hiring a guide is, I think, one of the best money that you can spend on your marketing. Just honestly, point blank. And that's not just me. There are plenty of guides to choose from. I just mean it's going to save you a ton of time and heartache in the process. You're going to get to a result much faster.
Totally. And it's an asset, not
Yeah.
just some words. It's an asset that's going to impact your organization for years to come.
Absolutely. The website that we launched 5 years ago, it still increases dollars every day. And I have a new iteration of the website, but then I'm like, it's working. So should we launch the update, or should we just keep it and let it keep working? So,
Well, your customers change, your services change sometimes, your things change.
yeah.
Yeah. So I totally get it. So Alex, um, folks have been listening. Maybe they want to reach out to you, talk to you a little bit.
Sure.
How do they get a hold of you?
Well, there's a couple of ways. The best way is through my website, which is schauerco.com. And Schauer is a little bit different spelling. It's SCHAUER. Co.com. It's a German name. And then, but specifically, if they are a family business and you're listening, the best way is to go to schauerco.com/family and actually have a download there that they can download. I actually entitled it How to Work Together and Still Love Each Other. So it's all about how to really make your experience in a family business incredibly successful. So it's the things that we found that have worked for us, and I hope that they work for you too.
That's excellent. Alex, this has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate you and I value you.
Thank you for inviting me, Steve. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, that's a wrap.